Dear students, welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to study about the DC motor. And what is a DC motor? First of all, motor. What is a motor? Motor is a machine which converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. And DC motor is the machine which converts direct current electrical energy, DC electrical energy into mechanical energy. And what is the principle of operation of a motor? The principle of operation of a motor is that whenever a current carrying conductor or coil is placed in a magnetic field, it means the conductor or the coil experiences a force. So that is how the electrical energy gets converted into a force is a mechanical parameter. So it gets converted into a mechanical energy. So what we should have is a current carrying conductor. So the conductor or the coil should be current carrying. When it is placed in a magnetic field, automatically it will experience a force. And in the construction would be in such a way that the conductors would be placed, the coils will be placed on the armature, and that force is converted into a torque because that armature is mounted on a shaft. That is how the cumulative effect of all the torques experienced by the each of this conductor will add up to give a mechanical motion. So that is how the armature will start rotating. DC motor is a machine which converts DC electrical energy into mechanical energy. Operation of DC motor. The operation of a DC motor is based on the principle that whenever a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, conductor experiences a mechanical force. Now, how much mechanical force is experienced by the coil or a conductor? So it depends on three factors. The magnitude of force is given by F is equal to B into I into L. And what is B? B is the magnetic flux density. Means we are going to keep that current carrying conductor or a coil in a magnetic field. The B represents the magnetic flux density, which is measured in Weber per meter square. Then next one is the capital I. What is the capital I? Capital I is the amount of current that is carried by the conductor or the coil. So this is the magnitude of the current in amperes carried by the conductor or the coil, which is going to be placed in the magnetic field. And what is the L? L is the length of the conductor. So if you see, the force experienced by the conductor is directly proportional to the magnetic flux density and the current that it carries and the length. So as magnetic flux density increases, the force will increase. As the current in the conductor increases, the force will increase. As the length of the conductor increases, also the force will increase. Now the construction, this we talk about the principle of operation. Before that, the construction of a DC motor. The construction of a DC motor is exactly same as the DC generator. In the DC generator session, we looked into the construction of a DC generator. The construction of DC motor is exactly the same. There is no difference at all. Just I will show you the diagram and a brief explanation, and then we come back to the operation of motor. Okay, so this is a construction which we looked into in the earlier session. So in the what are the main parts of a DC generator, and it would be the same for the motor. Main part of the motor would be, we will be having a outer frame, okay, made of cast iron material like that, and it will be having a eye bolt and a base that is for the mechanical support, and also it will support the field system. Then the next major part is the field system or the main pole system. In case of a main pole system, we have a pole shoe, pole core, and on top of that we will have the field winding, and we might have 2 poles, 4 poles, it depends on the design. N number P is the number of poles we can have, and this forms the a stationary part, means non-moving part of the machine. Then we have the armature. So this armature, there will be very little gap, as I told you before. There is very little air gap between the field system structure and the armature. The armature consists of slots on the outer periphery, right? You can see the slots on the outer periphery, and the armature is made using the silicon steel, and it will be laminated. Silicon steel to reduce the hysteresis loss, and the lamination will help in reducing the eddy current loss. And those laminations are stacked together to form the cylindrical structure that forms the armature core, and this armature core will be mounted on a shaft. The center part is a shaft on which it will rotate, and in these slots we put a armature winding. That armature winding, that is connected to the commutator segment. So you can see this part is a commutator segment, and on top of the commutator segment we will be having the brushes, and these brushes are connected to the terminals, which where we get the where we can give the electrical energy. In case of a motor, at to the terminal we give the DC electrical supply, then the motor will start operating. Okay, this is the construction which is exactly same as the DC generator. For if construction is asked, whether it is a generator or the motor, it would be the same construction. Now let us go back to the principle of operation. Okay, for simplicity we consider only one coil. Okay, you can see one coil. AB is the one side of a conductor, CD is the another side of that particular coil, and this coil is supplied with the DC voltage, and that will result in a current I. So current will be flowing this particular coil. So it will go from positive B to A and C to D. So these are the two conductors, and this coil is placed in a magnetic field, north and south. The magnetic lines of flux would be from north to south. Now whenever a current carrying coil is placed in a magnetic field, the conductor, okay, each of these conductor will experience a force, and we know what is the magnitude of that force. It is given by F is equal to BIL, and it is represented in Newton. Now we know what is the magnitude, but what would be the direction of that particular force? The direction of the force is found out using the Fleming's left hand rule. Fleming's right hand rule is for the generator. Fleming's left hand rule is for the motor. If for the Fleming's left hand rule, you have to hold your left hand forefinger, middle finger and thumb in such a way that each are at 90 degrees to each other, and if the forefinger points to the direction of the magnetic field, so your forefinger should be pointing in this direction, okay, this direction, and the middle finger points to the direction of the current. So we have the force magnetic field is in this direction, and the middle finger current is flowing in this direction. Then the thumb will give you the direction of motion. So here you can see this is your forefinger, this is your middle finger, and this is your thumb. The forefinger is pointing to the flux, middle finger is pointing to the current is going in inwards, and flux is like this. The direction of motion is the direction given by the thumb. So the thumb will show the direction of motion, which is downwards. So if we check the direction of motion for the conductor AB, it will be exactly downwards. Similarly, if we check the direction of motion for conductor CD, now the forefinger will be in the same direction, okay, that is from the screen, if you see, from left to right, and the direction of current is this side, okay. So you point your middle finger in the direction of the current, then the thumb will be pointing to the direction of the force. So this is the flux, your forefinger, this is your middle finger current, then thumb will show the direction of motion or the direction of the force, which is upward. So the CD conductor will experience a upward force and AB will experience a downward force. And if that this particular coil is mounted on an axis, just you can imagine a imaginary axis of rotation here. This would be going down and this would be going up, so that will create a rotating motion. So collectively on the armature construction, we saw on the armature winding there are so many conductors on the outer periphery of the armature slots. All conductors will experience the force in this way, and cumulatively it will add up all the forces, and it will, because it is mounted on a shaft, it will get converted into a torque. That is how the armature starts rotating. So for a given electricity supply, whatever the DC supply, that will get converted into a mechanical motion. This is how the DC motor operates. Okay, there is something called as a back EMF in case of a DC motor. So what is a back EMF? Back EMF is a very important thing. Now what has happened, we understood when we give the supply to the coil will start carrying the conductor as current. So I will just go back here. When we give the supply, current will start flowing in the conductor, and this particular coil is placed in a magnetic field, so it will experience a force and it will start rotating. So just assume the whole armature conductors, they start rotating when we give the DC supply. When it is rotating, now what happens, the same conductors are experiencing a change in the flux, because all the conductors are rotating, and also there is a flux linked with them. The flux linked with them is changing. Whenever there is a change in the flux linked with a conductor, what happens, an EMF is induced in the conductor, and that EMF is called as a back EMF, and the direction of that back EMF would be in such a direction, it opposes the cause which is producing it. And what is the cause that is producing it? The voltage that we have applied to the DC motor, that is making the armature to rotate or the conductors to rotate. So it will oppose that particular terminal voltage, and it is called as a back EMF. You can see this is the applied voltage. This is a example of a DC shunt motor. This is the applied voltage V, and back EMF is produced in a direction which will counter the applied voltage. Okay, and this is very important, the back EMF. The back EMF makes a motor as a self-regulating. We will see what is a self-regulating. First, back EMF, when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, it experiences a mechanical force. Now the same conductor is rotating in a magnetic field, so flux linking with that conductor changes, hence EMF is induced in that conductor, which is opposite to the applied voltage, called the back EMF. So that is the meaning of the back EMF. And if you remember, in case of a DC generated, we did the derivation for the induced EMF or the generated EMF, and what was the equation? Eg is equal to P phi Z divided by 60 P phi N divided by 60 into Z by A, or we can say Eg is equal to P phi Zn divided by 60A. In case of a back EMF, How much back EMF is produced? Exactly the same equation. So in case of a motor, it would be EB, B representing the back EMF. EB is equal to P phi Zn divided by 60A, where P is number of poles, phi is flux per pole, Z is total number of conductors on the armature, N is the speed with armature rotates, speed of armature, and A is number of parallel paths, and based on the type of the winding, for lap winding number of parallel paths is A is equal to P, and for wave winding number of parallel paths A is equal to 2. Now what is the significance of this back EMF? I told you the significance of the back EMF, it makes the motor as a self-regulating. What is self-regulating? So self-regulating means what? The amount of current, okay, the amount of current required on no load would be armature current, right? The armature current, how much armature current it will draw, it depends on the load. If the motor is not loaded, means what? Nothing is connected to its shaft. So what would be the load on the motor? The load on the motor would be mechanical, right? You connect that shaft to some load and you will make it to rotate. That is the load, mechanical load. Let us say this particular motor, you are not connected it to anything, so it is freely rotating, that is a no load. When it is running on no load, automatically the torque required is less, so amount of current it draws is less. Now when this particular motor is loaded, on the shaft we put the mechanical load. As we increase the load, the torque that would be required to handle that particular load has to be increased. So to increase that torque, we have to increase the armature current, right? In case of a DC motor, because of this back EMF, the armature current will increase, and so the torque will increase. So whenever there is an increase in the load, armature current will increase. Whenever there is a decrease in the load, the armature current decreases. That is what is called as a self-regulating. So here we will see the example. This is a shunt motor. In case of a shunt motor, the equation we can write is IA is equal to V minus EB divided by A. So V minus EB divided by RA. As of now, you can just see this formula as is. We are going to discuss about this, how we get this relation between the back EMF and the terminal voltage. So in case of a shunt motor, armature current IA is equal to V minus EB whole divided by RA. Now initially when a motor is on no load, so when it is on no load, automatically its speed would be more. When the speed is more, the amount of flux cut by the conductor C will increase. When amount of flux cut by the conductor increases, the EMF or the back EMF induced in the conductor will increase. For example, let us say terminal voltage 250, and just we will assume armature resistance as 1 ohm, and when the motor is on no load, for the applied voltage of V is equal to 250, it creates a back EMF of, let's say, 240. Now what is the value of the armature current? 250 minus 240 divided by 1, that would be 10 amperes. So initially it will draw 10 amperes. Now let us say we increase the load, means we put a mechanical load on the motor. Whenever we put a mechanical load on the motor, what happens to the speed? The speed will decrease. When the speed decreases, the amount of flux cut by the armature conductors will decrease. So when the flux cut by the conductor decreases, EMF induced in them decreases, so the back EMF decreases. Let us say with the same example, for the applied voltage of 250, now the back EMF is 230 because there is an increase in the load. Now what happens? 250 minus 230 divided by Ra, that is 1. So how much would be the 20 amperes? So now you can see the armature current has increased. So this is how it is. The back EMF is very significant in making the DC motor as a self-regulating. Next we will see types of a DC motor. So there are again the classification of types of a DC motor is based on the how the field winding is connected. The field winding, this is the field winding and this is the armature. If the field winding is connected in series with the armature winding, that is called as a DC series motor. And then if that particular winding is in parallel, now you can see the field winding is in parallel with the armature winding, we call it as a shunt wound motor or just shunt motor, DC shunt motor. And the another type is based on how we connect the field winding again. In the we have the compound motor. In case of a compound motor, it's a combination of series and shunt. In case of a short shunt, so this is a short shunt, a part of the field is connected in parallel with the armature winding, and with this combination another part of the field winding is connected in series. If the connection is like this is called as a short shunt motor. This is the long shunt motor. In this particular case, armature winding is connected in series with a part of the field winding, and this particular series combination is connected in parallel with the another part of a field winding. This type of a connection we call it as a long shunt motor. So in the next session we will derive how we get the relation between the terminal voltage V and the back EMF.